The 1920s and 1930s was a new era on how people travelled. Horse and stagecoach rapidly gave way to the motor car, with the diesels rapidly on their heels. The first diesel lorries were produced in 1923, and by 1929 the diesel engine had found its way into the humble motor car. Across the Channel in Europe, many rail companies were toying with the idea of ditching standard steam engines in favour of alternative fuels such as diesel. The LNER at the time of its creation in 1923 had in fact inherited a number of petrol engines, namely from the North Eastern Railway, and only one example survives today. The LNER withdrew the majority of its petrol fleet in the 1920s, but it was keen to look at alternative diesels instead. While Sir Nigel Gresley was focused on the main line, he also knew the importance of local routes as well. These lines were not in need of any large engines, in fact the smaller the better, and it was decided to look at diesel rail cars. They were designed to hold a smaller number of people, would be cheaper to run, and be able to keep up to the slower timetables the branch lines demanded. The LNER approached Armstrong, Whitworth and Company and gave them the task. The company had been producing a multitude of vehicles and machines for the best part of 30 years, and its experience of diesel engines was world famous, having been one of the first to fit one in submarines. In 1931, the first LNER diesel railcar rolled out of the workshop. The diesel engine was a Sulzer diesel design. It was a tad smaller than some of its other types, but it was still rather powerful. It had a 4-stroke cycle and had 6 cylinders capable of producing 250 horsepower, giving the railcar a top speed of around 65 miles an hour. The engine and underframe were sent to Craven, where Craven Railway and Carriage Company gave it a new body. Like with most railcars, a driver's cab was replicated at both ends, negating the need for a turntable. Riveted steel made the body, and a luggage compartment was housed near the engine for bulky items. The passengers sat comfortably in the main compartment, and the compartment could be sectioned into two by means of a pair of sliding doors. The railcar could take upwards of 50 passengers at a time. As it was an experimental prototype, the LNER didn't want to take possession of the engine just yet. Instead, the engine was given the name of Tyneside Venturer, and it was taken to the Newcastle area to begin its trials. There was no doubt Gresley would have wanted to keep close tabs on how the engine was doing. If the engine was successful, then the LNER would be interested in more. Whitworth too was keen as well, as it would strengthen ties with the LNER and they would be able to get more engines, possibly to the main line. Whitworth was so confident that their plans were already underway for a second engine. After 30 weeks of trials in the north, the LNER was satisfied and on the 24th of November made the move to purchase the engine. Whitworth proudly handed the engine over by December the 12th, 1932, and turned its attention to the engine's sister, Lady Hamilton. The Lady Hamilton was built almost identical to the Tyneside Venturer, but the LNER was cautious. It still insisted on trial runs before purchasing, and Lady Hamilton's trials were harder than before. Although not intended, the LNER insisted she did a full run along the main line from Newcastle to King's Cross. Not only did Lady Hamilton exceed all expectations by performing without a fault, she maintained an average speed trundling along at 47 miles an hour. Not too bad for such a little railcar. The third railcar, Northumbrian, was very similar to the others. However, following their success, the Northumbrian carried a few extra features for guests of the Whitworth Company. These extra features took out the majority of the seats, leaving only 12, but the rest of the space was used as a bespoke kitchen, meeting area and even a wardrobe to hang your coat. It was a temporary arrangement, and by the time the LNER bought it, it was already converted to be like its sisters. A fourth and last car was created. However, this was mostly used as a spare, and it remained unnamed. The engines were sent to the north of England to work on the branch lines of Yorkshire. They were used mostly to boost passenger numbers, and the novelty worked. Very few people had seen these strange vehicles before, with a few remembering the similar shaped northeastern rail cars that roamed the railway before, and the people liked them. But the shortfalls showed. The cars could only hold a finite number of people, and it wasn't as simple as adding on an extra carriage. But steam engines can, and as soon as the passengers' numbers increased, the steam engines came back. As the years passed, the number of issues increased, even with the increase of diesel fitters. In the end, especially with the threat of war, the engines were quietly withdrawn and put into storage. They remained at Doncaster Works while the LNER discussed their use. With the onset of war, it was theorised that they may be of some use with some modifications, but it was not to be, and they were still spotted in situ as the war came to a close, and it was clear that they would never come back to the tracks again. So in 1944, all 4 engines were scrapped and their parts used in alternative diesels elsewhere. Although the engines are long gone, examples of Sulzer engines still survive, and at York you can even touch one. Near the turntable is a very large diesel engine. This engine is from a class 24 or 25 and was made in Barrow by the Vickers Company for British Rail. It's not known exactly what locomotive this engine was for, but it does give a sense of the power these engines had. I mean, imagine that, scaled down and in the body of a bus, and you might envision those LNER engines from all those years ago.